I sat perfectly still at my dining room table, my hands folded in front of a thick manila envelope. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence. 11:47 p.m. Any minute now, Marcus would pull into our driveway, expecting to find an empty house and a grieving widower's story to tell. But I was here, alive, waiting. The headlights swept across our living room window, and I heard his car door slam shut. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stay calm. After what he did to me 3 days ago, I deserved this moment. 3 days ago, I was screaming his name in complete darkness. Marcus! Marcus, please come back! My voice echoed through the empty forest as his red taillights disappeared around the bend. The sound of his engine faded until all I could hear was my own panicked breathing and the rustling of leaves in the wind. He had rolled down his window just before driving away, his face twisted with a smile I'd never seen before. "Let's see if the wolves like you, Sarah," he shouted, laughing like it was the funniest joke in the world. "Don't worry. I'll make sure to cry real tears at your funeral." I remember standing there in that clearing, surrounded by towering pine trees that blocked out the moon. My phone had no signal. I was wearing just a light sweater and jeans because Marcus told me the cabin would be warm. There was no cabin. There was nothing but darkness and the distant sound of something howling. This was supposed to be our romantic getaway, I had whispered to myself, shivering as the temperature dropped. Our anniversary trip. But even as I said it, I knew the truth. The way Marcus had been acting for weeks, the secretive phone calls, the nervous energy, the way he insisted I didn't need to pack much for our trip, the way he kept asking weird questions about my life insurance policy, claiming he was just making sure we were covered. I should have trusted my gut when he refused to tell me exactly where we were going. "It's a surprise, babe," he kept saying. "Just trust me." Trust him? What a joke. Now I heard his key in the front door, and I straightened my shoulders. The envelope in front of me contained everything, every piece of evidence that would destroy the lie he was about to tell. The door opened, and Marcus stepped inside, already pulling out his phone. He was probably planning to call 911 to report his wife missing after their romantic cabin trip went wrong. Poor Marcus, so worried about his beloved Sarah who mysteriously vanished in the woods. But then he saw me. His phone clattered to the floor. His face went completely white, like he was seeing a ghost. In a way, I guess he was. "Sarah?" His voice cracked. "But how? You're supposed to be dead?" I finished for him, my voice steady and cold. "Yes, Marcus. I was supposed to be dead. Eaten by wolves, maybe. Or just lost forever in those woods where nobody would ever find my body." He took a step backward, his eyes darting around the room like he was looking for an escape route. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been looking for you everywhere. I was about to call the police." I almost laughed. Even now, caught red-handed, he was still trying to lie. "Sit down, Marcus." I gestured to the chair across from me. "We need to talk." "Sarah, you're scaring me. Where have you been? I went back to look for you, but you were gone, and I thought maybe you went for a walk and got lost, so I came home to get help and—" "Sit down." Something in my voice made him stop talking. Maybe it was the fact that I wasn't crying or begging or acting like the scared little wife he expected me to be. Maybe it was the way I was looking at him, not with love or relief, but with the cold stare of someone who finally saw him for what he really was. He sat down slowly, his eyes fixed on the envelope between us. "What's that?" he asked, though I could tell he already suspected. I smiled for the first time in days. "Your confession, Marcus, everything you thought you'd gotten away with." 3 weeks earlier, I was washing dishes in our sunny kitchen when Marcus wrapped his arms around me from behind. His chin rested on my shoulder, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Perfect, even. "I have a surprise for you," he whispered in my ear, his breath warm against my neck. I turned in his arms, soap bubbles still clinging to my hands. "What kind of surprise?" Marcus grinned, that boyish smile that made me fall in love with him 4 years ago. "Our anniversary is coming up, And I want to do something special. Really special. He pulled out his phone and showed me pictures of the most beautiful log cabin I'd ever seen. It sat on the edge of a crystal-clear lake, surrounded by tall pine trees and mountains in the background. The photos looked like something from a travel magazine. "Marcus, it's gorgeous. Where is it?" "About 3 hours north of here. I found it online. It's this hidden gem that hardly anyone knows about. No cell service, no distractions, just you and me and nature." I studied the pictures more carefully. The cabin looked cozy and romantic, with a stone fireplace and a deck overlooking the water. "It looks expensive." "Don't worry about that." Marcus kissed my forehead. "You're worth it. We both need this. Things have been so stressful lately with work and everything." He was right about the stress. Marcus had been working late almost every night for the past 2 months. When I asked about it, he said his insurance company was going through reorganization and everyone had to put in extra hours. Some nights he didn't come home until after midnight, claiming he fell asleep at his desk. "When would we go?" I asked, already imagining us sitting by that fireplace, talking and laughing like we used to. "Next weekend. I already requested the time off." Something small nagged at me. "You already requested time off? Before asking me?" Marcus's smile flickered for just a second. "I wanted to make sure I could get the days before I got your hopes up. You know how crazy my schedule has been." That made sense, I told myself. Marcus was always thoughtful like that, planning ahead to make sure our time together was protected. Over the next few days, I noticed Marcus spending a lot of time on his laptop, researching our trip. Whenever I walked into the room, he would quickly close whatever he was looking at. "What are you working on?" I asked one evening, settling onto the couch next to him. "Just looking up hiking trails and stuff. I want this trip to be perfect." He closed the laptop and pulled me closer. "Trust me, Sarah. This is going to be the best anniversary we've ever had." But something felt off. When I suggested we look at the trails together, Marcus said he wanted to keep everything a surprise. When I offered to help pack or plan meals, he insisted he had it all handled. "You don't need to bring much," he told me. "The cabin has everything. Towels, blankets, even a fully stocked kitchen. Just pack light." The night before our trip, I found Marcus on the phone in our bedroom, speaking in hushed tones. I caught fragments of the conversation through the door. "By Sunday, for sure. No, she doesn't suspect anything. I know what I'm doing." When I knocked and entered, Marcus quickly hung up. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just work stuff. You know how it is." He kissed my cheek, but his lips felt cold. "Are you excited about tomorrow?" I nodded, pushing down the weird feeling in my stomach. "I can't wait to see this magical cabin of yours." "It's going to change everything," Marcus said, and something in his voice made me look at him more carefully. But he was already turning away, busying himself with packing. That night, I lay awake listening to Marcus breathe beside me. He seemed restless, tossing and turning more than usual. At one point, I heard him whisper something in his sleep, but I couldn't make out the words. I told myself I was being paranoid. Marcus loved me. We were going on a romantic trip to celebrate 3 years of marriage. Everything was fine, but deep down, some part of me already knew that nothing would ever be fine again. The morning of our trip started with Marcus acting strange. He was up before dawn, loading the car while I was still getting dressed. When I came downstairs with my small suitcase, he was pacing in the kitchen, checking his phone every few seconds. "Ready to go?" he asked, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. "You seem nervous. Are you okay?" Marcus forced a laugh. "Just excited. I've been planning this for weeks." The first hour of driving felt normal. We talked about work, listened to music, and I even dozed off for a while. But when I woke up, I noticed we were on roads I'd never seen before. No highway signs, no gas stations, just endless trees on both sides. "Where exactly are we going?" I asked, looking around at the dense forest. "Not much further now." Marcus's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. The GPS stopped working about 20 minutes ago, but I remember the way from when I scouted it out. You scouted it out? When? Last weekend, when I told you I was working late on Friday. He glanced at me quickly, then back at the road. I wanted to make sure I could find it easily. That explained one of his late nights, but something still felt wrong. The road we were on was barely wide enough for one car, and I hadn't seen another vehicle in over an hour. Marcus, are you sure this is right? This doesn't look like the way to a vacation rental. Trust me, Sarah. His voice had an edge to it now. I know what I'm doing. I tried to use my phone to check our location, but there was no signal. My phone's dead. Can I use yours? Mine's dead too. That's why the GPS stopped working. But I could see his phone in the cup holder, and the screen was clearly on. Marcus, your phone isn't dead. I can see it's... Don't touch it, he snapped, grabbing the phone and shoving it into his pocket. Sorry, the battery is really low and I need to save it in case of emergency. The car fell silent, except for the sound of gravel crunching under our tires. We drove for another 30 minutes, going deeper and deeper into the forest. The trees were so thick now that barely any sunlight made it through. Finally, Marcus pulled into a small clearing and stopped the car. We're here, he said, but his voice sounded hollow. I looked around. There was no cabin, no lake, no romantic getaway. Just trees and shadows and a dirt clearing that looked like it hadn't been used in years. Marcus, where's the cabin? He turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, staring straight ahead. Get out of the car, Sarah. What? Why? Where's the cabin you showed me? I said get out of the car. His voice was different now, cold, like he was talking to a stranger instead of his wife. My heart started beating faster. Marcus, you're scaring me. What's going on? He turned to look at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something that made my blood run cold. You want to know what's going on? He laughed, but it wasn't the warm laugh I fell in love with. It was bitter and cruel. I'm broke, Sarah, completely broke. I owe people money. Dangerous people who don't take no for an answer. What are you talking about? We can figure this out together. We can... No, we can't. He reached across me and opened my door. Because the only way out of this mess is your life insurance policy. $500,000, Sarah, more than enough to pay off my debts and start over. I couldn't breathe. You're not serious. This is some kind of joke, right? Marcus got out of the car and walked around to my side. Get out, now. No. I pulled the door shut and tried to lock it, but Marcus was stronger. He yanked the door open and grabbed my arm. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I stumbled out of the car, my legs shaking. Marcus, please, I love you. We can work through whatever this is. He was already getting back in the driver's seat. I'm sorry, Sarah, I really am, but this is the only way. The engine started and I realized what was happening. Marcus, don't leave me here, Marcus! The sound of Marcus's car disappeared completely, leaving me alone with the whisper of wind through pine needles and my own ragged breathing. I stood in that clearing for what felt like hours, calling his name until my voice went hoarse, hoping this was all some terrible nightmare. But as the sun began to set, reality hit me like a punch to the stomach. My husband had just tried to kill me. The temperature dropped fast once darkness fell. I had no flashlight, no warm clothes, and no idea which direction led back to civilization. Every shadow looked like something dangerous, and every sound made me jump. Around midnight, I heard them. Howls in the distance, just like Marcus had joked about. My whole body started shaking, and not just from the cold. I found a large tree and pressed my back against it, trying to make myself as small as possible. The howling got closer. I could hear branches snapping somewhere in the darkness, like something big was moving through the forest. Please, I whispered to no one. Please let me live through this. That's when I saw the light. At first, I thought I was imagining it. A warm, yellow glow flickering between the trees about 100 yards away. But as I stared, I realized it wasn't moving like a flashlight. It was steady, like it was coming from a window. I had two choices: Stay here and hope the wolves weren't as close as they sounded, or walk toward that light and pray it meant safety. The howling decided for me. I stumbled through the darkness, tripping over roots and branches, following that precious light. As I got closer, I could see it was coming from a small log building. Not the fancy cabin from Marcus's photos, but a simple ranger station with smoke coming from its chimney. I pounded on the door with both fists. "Help! Please, someone help me!" The door opened, and I found myself looking at a woman in her 40s with kind brown eyes and graying hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a Forest Service uniform and held a steaming mug of coffee. "Good Lord, what are you doing out here?" She pulled me inside immediately. "You're freezing. Come sit by the fire." The warmth hit me like a wave, and suddenly I was crying. Not just tears, but huge, body-shaking sobs that I couldn't control. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." The woman wrapped a thick blanket around my shoulders. "I'm Elena Rodriguez, forest ranger for this sector. What's your name?" "Sarah," I managed between sobs. "Sarah Chen, my husband. He left me here. He drove away and left me to die." Elena's expression changed from concern to something harder. "He left you here? In these woods? At night?" I nodded, and Elena's jaw tightened. "Sarah, I need you to listen to me carefully. You're not the first person this has happened to." My crying stopped. "What do you mean?" Elena sat down across from me, her face serious. "In the past year, 3 people have gone missing in this area. All of them were brought here by someone they trusted. A spouse, a friend, a family member. The people who brought them claimed they wandered off and got lost. But you don't believe that. I know these woods better than anyone. People don't just wander off from the main trails and disappear without a trace. Someone has been using this location specifically because it's remote and dangerous." Elena got up and pulled out a thick file folder. The missing people all had one thing in common. They had life insurance policies that their companions would benefit from. My stomach dropped. "Marcus increased my policy 6 months ago. He said it was just smart planning." "What's your husband's full name?" "Marcus Chen. He works for Reliable Insurance downtown." Elena wrote this down, then looked at me with eyes full of sympathy. "Sarah, I think your husband researched this location specifically. He knew about the missing people. He knew that if your body was never found, he could collect on your insurance after having you declared dead." The room spun around me. "But why? We were happy. I thought we were happy." "Money makes people do terrible things. But here's what your husband didn't count on. Me. I've been investigating these disappearances on my own time, and I've been hoping someone would survive to tell me what really happened." Elena leaned forward. "Sarah, would you be willing to help me catch him?" Elena made me another cup of coffee while I tried to process everything she'd told me. The warmth of the mug in my hands was the only thing keeping me grounded in reality. "How do we prove what Marcus did?" I asked. "It's just my word against his." Elena sat down with her own coffee and opened a laptop. "We start with what we know. Your husband isn't the first person to try this, which means he probably researched the other cases." She pulled up news articles about the missing people. Jennifer Walsh, 34, disappeared during a hiking trip with her boyfriend. David Kim, 28, vanished while camping with his business partner. Lisa Santos, 41, went missing during a weekend getaway with her sister. All 3 cases were closed as accidental deaths after extensive searches found nothing, Elena explained. But I kept digging on my own time. She showed me financial records she'd somehow obtained. Jennifer's boyfriend had gambling debts. David's business partner was facing bankruptcy. Lisa's sister had just taken out a loan against Lisa's life insurance. My hands started shaking again. Marcus has been gambling. I found credit card statements hidden in his desk drawer last month, but when I asked about them, he said they were work expenses. Do you still have access to those statements? They're at home. Marcus doesn't know I found them. Elena nodded. Good. We'll need those. But first we need to establish that Marcus planned this trip specifically to bring you here. She opened a new browser window. I've been monitoring internet searches related to this area. Someone has been researching the missing persons cases extensively over the past 2 months. Elena pulled up a tracking program that showed IP addresses and search histories. Look at this. Someone searched for missing persons forest deaths, how long before declared dead, and life insurance payout timeline, all from the same computer. Can you trace that back to Marcus? Not directly, but we can get close. The searches came from the downtown area during business hours. If your husband works downtown and was doing this research during the day, I felt sick. He was planning this for months. There's more. Elena clicked to another screen. The same IP address also searched for information about me specifically. They looked up my work schedule, my patrol routes, even my home address. He was trying to avoid you. Exactly. But he made one mistake. He didn't know I've been staying at this station overnight for the past month, watching for exactly this kind of situation. Elena closed the laptop and looked at me seriously. Sarah, I need to ask you something difficult. Are you willing to go back home and pretend none of this happened? What do you mean? Marcus thinks you're dead. He's probably already started his grieving husband act, maybe even called the police to report you missing. If you show up alive, he'll just claim you got lost and he's been searching for you. I understood what she was suggesting. You want me to catch him in the lie. I want you to get him to confess. If he thinks he got away with it, he might let his guard down, especially if you confront him with evidence. Elena pulled out her phone. I have a contact at the police department, Detective Morrison. He's been frustrated with these missing persons cases too. If we can get Marcus to admit what he did on recording, Morrison can arrest him. But what if Marcus gets violent when he sees me? What if he tries to hurt me again? You won't be alone. Morrison and I will be right outside, listening to everything. The moment Marcus threatens you or admits to what he did, we'll be there. I thought about Marcus driving away, laughing as he left me to die. I thought about the other victims who weren't as lucky as me. I thought about what would happen to the next person if we didn't stop him. What do I need to do? Elena smiled for the first time since I'd met her. First, we gather all the evidence we can. Then we set a trap that Marcus won't be able to resist walking into. She handed me a small recording device. This goes in your pocket when you confront him. And Sarah? Yeah? You're braver than you know. Most people wouldn't survive what you just went through, let alone be willing to face their attacker again. I looked at the recording device in my palm. He's not my husband anymore. He's just a stranger who tried to murder me. Elena drove me back to town the next morning, but we didn't go straight to my house. First, we stopped at Detective Morrison's office to plan everything carefully. Detective Morrison was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes the whole time. This matches the pattern we've been seeing, he said when I finished, but we need solid evidence to make charges stick. Elena spread out everything we'd gathered on his desk. We have the internet search history, the financial records showing Marcus's gambling debts, and Sarah's testimony about the fake cabin photos. The photos, I said suddenly. Marcus showed me pictures of a beautiful cabin by a lake, but that place doesn't exist anywhere near where he took me. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Do you think he still has those photos? They might be on his computer. He was always very protective of his laptop. If we can prove he used fake photos to lure you there, that shows premeditation, the detective explained. Combined with the insurance policy and the gambling debts, we'd have a strong case. Elena pulled out a small recording device and a tiny wireless microphone. Sarah, when you confront Marcus tonight, you'll be wearing this. We'll be parked outside in an unmarked car, listening to everything. My stomach twisted with nerves. What exactly am I supposed to say to him? Start by acting confused and hurt, Detective Morrison suggested. Ask him why he left you there. Let him try to explain himself first. People who think they're smart often talk too much when they're trying to cover their tracks. Elena nodded. Then gradually reveal what you know. Show him the evidence piece by piece. The goal is to get him so rattled that he admits what he really planned. What if he gets violent? We'll be listening for any sign of trouble, Detective Morrison assured me. The moment his voice changes or we hear anything that sounds threatening, we're coming in. We spent the next hour rehearsing what I would say and how I would react to different responses from Marcus. Elena taught me how to position myself so the microphone would pick up everything clearly. "Remember," she said, "Marcus thinks he's won. He believes you're dead, and he's about to collect $500,000. That confidence might make him careless." Detective Morrison handed me a manila envelope. "Put all the evidence in here, the credit card statements, printouts of the search history, everything. When you're ready to confront him with proof, slide this across the table. The visual impact will be powerful." At 6 p.m., Elena drove me to my neighborhood and parked 2 blocks away. Detective Morrison was already positioned in an unmarked car across from my house. "Marcus's car isn't there yet," Elena observed. "That's good. You'll have time to set up." I walked to my front door on shaking legs. The house felt different somehow, like it belonged to strangers. I went straight to Marcus's desk and found the hidden credit card statements just where I'd left them. Gambling websites, cash advances, payments to people with names I didn't recognize. I arranged everything in the manila envelope, then sat at our dining room table to wait. The recording device felt heavy in my pocket, and the tiny microphone was clipped inside my collar where Marcus wouldn't see it. At 11:30 p.m., I heard his car in the driveway. Through the window, I watched Marcus sit in his car for several minutes before getting out. Even from a distance, I could see he was practicing his facial expressions, preparing to play the role of a worried husband. He walked slowly to the front door, his shoulders slumped like he was carrying the weight of grief. If I didn't know better, I might have believed he was genuinely devastated. Marcus put his key in the lock, took a deep breath, and opened the door. The moment he saw me sitting at the table, his carefully practiced expression crumbled. His face went completely white and his phone clattered to the floor. "Hello, Marcus," I said calmly. "We need to talk." In my pocket, the recording device captured every word as my husband's perfect plan began to fall apart. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, staring at me like I was a ghost. His mouth opened and closed several times before any words came out. "Sarah, but how? You're supposed to be—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Dead?" I said, keeping my voice steady. "Yes, Marcus. I was supposed to be dead. Eaten by wolves, maybe. Or just lost forever in those woods where nobody would ever find my body." He stumbled backward, his face pale as paper. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been looking for you everywhere. I was about to call the police." Even now, caught completely off guard, he was still trying to lie. I almost felt sorry for him. "Sit down, Marcus." I gestured to the chair across from me. "We need to talk." "Sarah, you're scaring me. Where have you been? I went back to look for you, but you were gone. And I thought maybe you went for a walk and got lost, so I came home to get help and—" "Sit down." Something in my voice made him stop talking. He sat down slowly, his eyes fixed on the manila envelope between us. "What's that?" he asked, though I could tell he already suspected. I smiled for the first time in days. "Your confession, Marcus. Everything you thought you'd gotten away with." "I don't understand." "Let me help you understand." I opened the envelope and pulled out the first document. "These are your credit card statements, the ones you hid in your desk. $50,000 in gambling debts, Marcus. When were you planning to tell me about that?" His face went from pale to red. Those are work expenses. I told you that." "Work expenses at online poker sites, at the Lucky 7 casino?" I pulled out more papers. "Here's your internet search history from the past 2 months. Missing persons forest deaths. How long before declared dead? Life insurance payout timeline." Marcus's hands started shaking. "Anyone could have searched for those things. That doesn't prove anything." "You're right. Anyone could have." I pulled out the photos Elena had printed. But not everyone has pictures of the 3 people who went missing in those exact same woods. Jennifer Walsh, David Kim, Lisa Santos. You researched all of them, didn't you? "I don't know who those people are." "Really?" because you also searched for information about Elena Rodriguez, the forest ranger who's been investigating their disappearances. You looked up her patrol schedule, her work hours, even her home address. You wanted to make sure she wouldn't find my body. Marcus stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is crazy, Sarah. You're talking like I tried to hurt you or something. I would never... You left me in the middle of nowhere. I stood up too, my voice rising. You drove away laughing and told me to see if the wolves liked me. That's not what happened. Then tell me what did happen, Marcus. Tell me about the beautiful cabin by the lake that doesn't exist. Tell me about the romantic getaway that was really just a place for me to die. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, pacing around the table. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. The people I owe money to, they're not patient. They said if I didn't pay them back by next week. So you decided to kill your wife for the insurance money. I didn't want to, but it was the only way out. $500,000, Sarah. Enough to pay off everything and start over. I couldn't believe he was actually admitting it. Start over? What about me? What about our marriage? Our marriage was already over, Marcus shouted. You just didn't know it yet. I stopped loving you months ago. You're boring, Sarah, predictable. I only stayed because I needed that insurance policy. The words hit me like a slap, but I kept the recording device running. So you plan to murder me. I plan to set you free, and free myself at the same time. It would have been quick, the cold, maybe the animals. You wouldn't have suffered long. How generous of you. Marcus suddenly realized what he'd been saying. His face went white again. Wait, I didn't mean... I was just upset. I would never actually... But it was too late. Through the window, I could see Detective Morrison and Elena walking up our front steps. The police have been listening to every word, Marcus, I said quietly. It's over. The front door opened, and Detective Morrison stepped inside with his badge visible. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for attempted murder. As they handcuffed my husband, he looked at me with pure hatred. You think you're so smart, but you'll never prove anything. I held up the recording device. I already have. Marcus dropped to his knees as the reality hit him. His perfect plan had failed, and now he would face the consequences. I was finally free.